Hey guys, welcome back to the Jays Fit Down podcast. I'm your host Jaden. Today we're going to be talking about the New York Giants and why they're in a bad situation going into the 2024 season. Before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to our channel here. Hit that button on the right corner of your screen. Like, share all that good stuff with your friends, family, fellow football enthusiasts. And yeah, guys are getting close to the draft. It is 1 week from today. Believe it or not, this offseason has flown by. Like I'm telling people, because there's so many people that's like, oh man, football is just I miss football. I miss like, hey, it kickoff will be here before we know it. I mean, because once we get through the draft, then starting into mini camp and then training camp, into the summer, like it'll be preseason will be here in August, and then before we know it, September will be 2024 season to kick off. So it's going to be here before we know it. But in the meantime, just have to, you know, just enjoy the off season, right? But and make speculations about teams and players and what they're going to do and this and that. So, but before we get into that, make sure, like I said, do that and make sure you check out my book, Connected. My recent drop is on Amazon, available for purchase. I'll put the link in the description below, so make sure y'all check that out. Would appreciate the support. Anyway, getting into the Giants now. So this is a team that went 6-11 last year, 2023. Daniel Jones struggled with some injury issues. Again, offense was not very good. Offensive line was not very good. Just very just not good around all the board. It just wasn't. It was New York Giants football at its finest, as we're all used to now at this point. However, the caveat here is that and Saquon Barkley was mostly healthy for the year, and it just was not very good. And now they lose him to the Eagles. He goes, to their rival. And Daniel Jones, they chose to give him the big contract because they could have gave it to Saquon Barkley, but they decided to sign Daniel Jones to that 4-year, $160 million extension. Which I was not really on board with because no hate on Daniel Jones, but I mean he just isn't worth that money to me. But the Giants front office thought that, so they decided to give him that contract, and now he's gonna be making that money. Got the neck issues, it's like the NCL injury issues as well. I'm just don't believe that was the smartest decision to make at that moment. Quarterback wise for the Giants, and now because you're really locked on to him. So at this point, and people are saying like, oh, they can draft a quarterback with that sixth pick, or like that. No, because these quarterbacks in this draft, first off, I don't think there's a quarterback going out the top the top three, like because your top three are most likely going to be Caleb Williams, Jane Daniels, Drake May. Like those are your top quarterbacks. Those are your top three picks. Like the first three picks, that's it. Bears, Commanders, Patriots. That's if everybody stays at that spot. They don't trade up or trade down. They sit right there and they keep those remaining picks where they are. Those three quarterbacks will be off the board. So people saying that JJ McCarthy is this. Well, we'll get to him in a second, but for right now, I just wanted to say that you know uh, after that, you have all these offensive playmakers that will be going on the board. These receivers, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors. Two options who I would be happy for the Giants to pick. Now Harrison I don't see sliding down to 6, but Malik Neighbors might be there. Roma Dunze, if the Chargers don't pick him at 5, which I would be very concerned if they didn't. So it's at a point now where New York you just got to get some playmakers on that side of football. I'd say the best case scenario for them is you draft the receiver, one of those good receivers, whether it be a Dunze, Harrison, or Malik Neighbors, depending on their availability at the time of the pick, and roll with that going into and then maybe take one in the later rounds, take you a running back, in the later rounds, of course. Continue to add to that defensive side of football. Take some offensive linemen. They just need the Giants need a lot of help on the offensive line. Defensively though, they got some good pieces. I mean, Aziz Ojolari, Kevon Thibodeau, Leonard Williams. I mean, so they got some solid pieces up there on that defensive line. And then secondary though is a little bit of a concern. Losing Xavier McKinney. So that's a little bit concerning there. At cornerback spot is something I definitely would address if I'm the Giants. So they got a lot of holes going into 2024, and they're just not in the best situation right now. Not in a situation to compete or contend, but in a situation to build your roster and tool for the future. that's where they are right now. Kind of similar to the Commanders. Even though I said the Commanders are probably in a slightly better situation, just because they have the playmakers, they have the defense, they have. It's just Ron Rivera was not the best coach for that team, so had some questionable coaching decisions and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, like the Commanders were a solid team. They just needed a quarterback. So, which is where Jay Daniels comes in. Most likely going to be him at that second pick, or it could be Drake May. But I'm hearing lately a lot of reports that Jay Daniels could be that second quarterback taken off the board, going to the Commanders. So, and Drake May, of course, would be headed to the Patriots if that would be the case. Again, that's if the Patriots don't trade back like they usually do every year. Then again, Bill Belichick isn't there, so they might not do that. They might Gerard Mayo might stick with that number 3 overall pick, and as he should, take a quarterback because they also need a quarterback. But back to the Giants, you got to figure out something. You got to get some offensive playmakers on that side of football. You got to help out Daniel Jones because he needs it badly. I mean, you need offensive line, consistent play from them. That's just my overall outlook for that team going into the 2024 season. They're not going to contend. They're not going to compete because with that division, your heavyweights are still the Eagles and the Cowboys. However, the Cowboys losing Tony Pollard and not really signing anybody in free agency, questionably, and of notice. And they still got some extensions they got to work on. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, if they're going to resign those guys. Not sure about that. We'll see what happens there. So, and the Eagles just signed Devontae Smith to that big extension. So, they're getting one of their better receivers back. And the hope for them is that Jalen Hurts, is a little bit better next year than when he was this past season, similar to the Super Bowl team, because he played phenomenal that year. But last year took a step back, regressed a little bit. So they're hoping offensively that they can be better than what they were in this past season. So Giants right now, you're like I said, you just need to get your receiver, your star receiver of the future, because they haven't had a number 1 receiver, a true number 1 since Odell left. Let's be honest, like Sterling Shepard he was forced to be a number 1. He's not that type of player. Isaiah Hodgins is not a number 1 receiver, and I don't know what Darren Waller is going to do. I mean, he might retire. I'm not even sure. Sometimes I even forgot he was on their roster last year. So we'll see what happens with him. But like I said, offensively, they gotta address that receiver position. They gotta get a receiver in there. Get you a guy like Marvin Harrison or Rome Odunze, or Malik Neighbors at LSU. All those guys I think would be great picks for this team because they need the help. Desperately need that help at the offense position. So we'll see what they do. But moving into JJ McCarthy, like I said, so a lot of mediums, a lot of NFL and talk shows and stuff, football networks are talking about like the Giants should take JJ McCarthy with the 6th overall pick in the draft. That is a bunch of just craziness. Like JJ McCarthy is not worth that number. That he's not worth being taken that high. He's a good quarterback, and he won a national championship. I can't take that away from him. He won a national championship at Michigan. However, a big part of that was Blake Corum and that rushing attack. The defense played phenomenally well. They were phenomenally coached by Jim Harbaugh, now the head coach of the Chargers. So I can't say JJ was like the catalyst leading that team in the national championship. I can't say he was the big benefactor. He was the source of all of that. I can't say that because he wasn't. Anybody who watches college football, who watched that, who watched him all year and who watched Michigan, who watched them in the playoffs, know that that wasn't the case. He made the throws and plays when he needed to, but outside of that, he wasn't some big, like superstar mega, like he wasn't like some Caleb Williams type name player, Jane Daniels type player. He wasn't like that, or even the Drake May type of player. He wasn't like that, and those are the 3 best quarterbacks in the draft, so he, to me, at the most should be a late first round pick. And not even that, I say 2nd or 3rd, realistically speaking. That's just where his skill set fits. His skill set fits that, and it's like I don't see him going any higher than that. He can launch football, but we saw Zach Wilson do that in his pro day, and we saw will happen with that here in the NFL with him. So it's like I don't care how far you can throw a football. I care about how can you make your reads when you get to this level. Can you process correctly? How quickly can you process? Are you a leader? Just can you be a leader? Can we trust you to be our starting quarterback? All these intricacies, so many more things I could name that these coaches are looking for when they're searching for their next quarterback of the future. The team has got to be able to rally around you and trust you. And know that the game is on the line, that you can take us down the field and score. JJ McCarthy, I don't believe it's that guy. At the NFL level, he may have been in Michigan, but this isn't Michigan. This is the NFL. This is the professional football. Much different. Like some guys can do that at the collegiate level, but they get to the NFL and it's a whole different ball game, whole different story, and they don't last. So many examples we can name, right? So so with JJ McCarthy, that's my whole deal. Like he's not worth a top 6, 5 pick, and if a team trades up with the Giants to get him, like the Vikings or some team like that, a quarterback needy team, then that's on them. But wouldn't be the smartest decision to me. So because he'll probably be there in second, third round. We're being honest, But since all the hype and stuff building around him, Harbaugh was hyping him up. Rightfully so. He's your former player. Of course, you're gonna hype up your former player. But even with all this hype, like he really just might go off the board at 6. And I swear, if the Giants take him at 6, that'll put a stamp on just how what's the word I'm looking for? That just how strange of a franchise they've been in, like since they won the Super Bowl years ago. So that's just to kind of hone all that in there. So overall, like I said, Giants are in a bad situation right now. They gotta, like I said, gotta get help for Daniel Jones. He needs to stay healthy. And they need him to stay healthy because he's on a $460 million deal. Not the type of deal you want to draft a quarterback with, because like you got now Daniel Jones is not going to mind being a backup and getting paid that money. Of course, anybody would take that. Again, being a backup and getting paid that type of money, like, hey, all right, if you think this guy's better than me, cool. I'm still getting paid regardless. No, don't do that because that's too much. No. If you sign him to that contract, he's gonna have to play. Now shouldn't have got it to begin with. Shouldn't have went to Barkley, but we see how that goes. So it's like that's the NFL. That's the nature of the beast. That's how the business goes. It's a business at the end of the day. So we'll see how the Giants fare next season. But like I said, guys, the draft is next week. NFL Network, ESPN, ABC, April 27th. I think it's the date. I want to make sure I get the right date for y'all because sometimes like. Okay, no, the 25th. It's the 25th through the 27th. So next Thursday is the 25th. So the draft will take place the 25th through the 27th, I believe. So you make sure y'all don't, miss out on that. We're giving y'all good coverage of that as well here on Jay's Fit Down. Do a recap after. So make sure you stay tuned, and we'll see you next time on the show. Make sure you hit that subscribe button in the right corner of your screen. Thank you.